welcome. This is our August course, the Grant Mastery, Unlocking Funding Success for Public Safety. If you're in other parts of municipal government and ended up here, that's okay. The strategies and conversation we're going to have today will be of value to you as well. And I'll be speaking to end users and I'll be speaking to businesses. This class is for both, because the better you both understand how to play the game, the better you're going to be. Yes, it will be recorded. Forgot to mention that. Thanks, Tim. This class is recorded and it'll be on our YouTube channel as well. So let's start off by talking a little bit about what we're going to cover. So today we're going to cover 4 things. What do you want? And everybody in this room is here really because you want solutions to better do your job. Or if you're a business, you want to be able to sell more of your solution to the marketplace. Grants are a vehicle to do that. So with that in mind, the next thing we're going to talk about is why. Why do you want it? When it comes down to it, the drive in life is always in the why. So we're going to dig deeper into the whys. What's the motivating or driving force? Because that driving force is actually going to be one of the keys to getting grant funding. And we'll talk about that in detail as well. And then 3, how can you achieve it? What are the steps and strategies you need to take to achieve getting the funding for the projects that are going to ultimately help your community? And then last but not least, a call to action. I have a belief that you can never leave a goal or a strategy session like this without being prepared to take some type of action. So let's begin with, what do you want? So I've been in the industry now for over 20 years. I've owned my consulting business for over 16. Prior to that, I sold SWAT equipment. So I was selling to SWAT teams, everyone east of the Mississippi River, covering about 26 states. Over the years, I've learned that public safety agencies want the following: add more value to their community than ever before. The reality is this: if it's equipment, software, training, services, personnel, capital expenditures, all of that is to ultimately add more value to the community you serve. Second thing I see is consistent funding for solutions that serve the community. Budgets are tight. And if there's a way to generate additional revenue that will fund different projects to provide value to the community, then that is a very much important topic these days. 3 is solving, whoops, hit the wrong button here. 3 is to solve problems that exist in the community. We all have problems in our communities these days. And if there's a way for us to be able to solve those problems, we want to be able to do so. So the purpose is going to be, how do we do that? How do we solve these problems that exist? If you're a business in the room, the first thing you want to do is add more value to the public safety market than ever before. If you're in this industry, you make a high quality product because you can't survive in this industry without making something that's going to produce results. The reality though is making a product and being able to sell it throughout the marketplace are 2 different things. And so if you're a business and you don't understand where there's money, it's very difficult to build your business and sustain the ups and downs, because you're dealing with a market that never knows when they're going to have money. And we'll go into that in a couple slides. Second thing is, if you're a business, you want more sales leads, specifically for marketing campaigns. I was just at a 911 trade show called APCO. Next week, I will be at a fire show called Fire Rescue International. And then in about 3 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks, I'm going to be at the NTOA, which is the National Tactical Officers Association Conference. And all those conferences, vendors will buy booth space, 10 by 10, 10 by 20. Some of them were 20 by 40, some really large booths. And the outcome is to have the traffic come through that show and stop at the booth and generate opportunities to build business, build opportunities to quote product or services, make connections that are long-term. And the reality is this: if a business doesn't have money, they typically don't have the ability to even have a conversation with you. So if those end users don't have budget money for X, Y, or Z, they're going to look at what you have from afar, not even start a conversation. So I always encourage companies, learn where the money's at so you can help those end users figure out how to get money to buy from you. The other thing businesses want is a more accurate sales pipeline to grow their business. Right now in our industry, it's very easy to fill a pipeline with opportunities. It's very difficult to close business because your customer base doesn't have the money and they're typically waiting to get the money. So if you have that opportunity to understand where the money's at, the business will close faster. And then last but not least, a business wants to sell more of their solution. And grants are a vehicle to do this for both sides of the room. And so with that in mind, why do you want it? What is the driving force to learn about grants today? If you're a business, 90 to 98% of all public safety agency budgets go to payroll and gasoline. That's what the numbers say: law enforcement, fire service, EMS, across the board. When you have 90 to 98% of your budgets going to payroll and gasoline, that only leaves 2 to 10%. And there are needs amongst the agency and different divisions of the agency to ultimately fill gaps. And if you're a business, that's really the landscape. You have to figure out how your solution can fit into 2 to 10% of the budget. And that's what drives a majority of agencies to come to my free classes. And I've been doing these classes now we're closing in on year number 3. The other thing I find is elected officials, they want to say in what public safety agencies want to purchase. I find more and more elected officials want to know, okay, what does the public safety agency think they need? Why do they think they need it? And I want to be able to either approve it or decline it based on what I feel as an elected official my constituents want. And so that's the nature of the market. And it's been like that now for about 15 years. So the why is really what drives people to come to this class. And what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the why of the solution that you want and why it's going to add the value to offset the challenges you have. If you're a business, you're experiencing the following problems: a long sales process. The average purchasing process takes 6 months to 2 years, I find, for a project that costs in 4 figures or more. So, let's say it's a $5,000 project. You're looking at about 6 months to 2 years to close a deal on that. And that's a long time. The other issue is that the elected officials, how I mentioned earlier, want to say in what the public safety agencies want to purchase. They're going to vote on average 5 to 7 times before making a purchase. They're going to vote to approve a project. They're going to approve pursuing a grant. They're going to approve accepting a grant if it's awarded. They're going to approve taking the money in from the grant. They're going to approve putting it out to bid. They're going to approve the bid that's awarded. They're going to approve cutting a PO. There's multiple approval processes in a purchase these days. And when you're talking about 5 to 7 approvals, you are talking 5 to 7 months. It's because they don't meet every day. They meet once a month typically. So that process becomes a long selling process for a business. The other thing is a need for a meaningful and productive conversation. There's a formula I believe in, and it's end users plus needs minus funding equals less conversations. So if you're a business, you want to have conversations. So it doesn't matter if you're marketing on a social media page or a publications media page or a magazine, or you have a booth at a trade show. You want conversations with the audience. And if you have grant funding as an identified solution for the market, you're going to have more conversations because the people that don't have money will want to talk to you. Because the biggest reason I find agencies don't talk to businesses is because they don't have any money and they're not going to start a conversation if they don't know where they're going to get money. So the more a business understands grants and where the money is for what they specifically sell, the odds go up, they're going to have a conversation, and then the odds go up, they're going to sell. The third thing is selling to a market that doesn't know when it's going to have funding creates material and supply chain issues. So if you're a business that manufactures something, you have to buy materials, then you have to produce the solution, and then you have to keep it on the shelves so you can get it out to your distributors and get it out to your end users, may it be directly or through that distribution channel. It's tough to buy materials when you don't know when when the business is going to close. So if you're selling to a market that doesn't know when they're going to buy, how do you know when to buy materials? How do you know when to build and stock solutions? And the answer is you don't. And nowadays, there's a lot of uncertainty in our world. There's uncertainty in terms of the economy. There's uncertainty due to inflation. There's uncertainty due to relationships amongst countries. There's a lot of uncertainty. And if it's me and I have a business and I make X or Y or Z, I want to create as much certainty as I can. So I want to make that certainty in things I can control. And one of the things I can control is knowledge. I can go out and figure out where is their money and figure out, okay, how do I approach the markets that have money or access to it so I can sell more? And that's really why people come to this class. So how can you achieve this? How do you achieve learning this grant game? And how do you achieve selling more, acquiring more solutions, and ultimately, how do you make your community safer? And there's 3 areas that you can do that: psychology, strategies, and having what I like to call a grant writing mindset. So let's talk about psychology. The game in life is psychology. If you go into your job, if you go into a situation in public safety, or if you're on the business side in this room, your psychology determines your success. And so the first thing you really have to do is goal set. And you need to clearly define your goals and break them down into what I call SMART objectives: specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound, because that's going to provide a framework for your efforts. So how do you do this when it comes to grants? You need to figure out, okay, specifically, what do we need money for? Or if you're a business, how much is our goal to sell? Measurables. You have to have the ability to measure your success as you go through achieving these goals, because you can't manage what you don't measure. So you have to have benchmarks. So when you have your goal, you have to figure out, okay, hitting this level is the first thing. Hitting this level is the second thing. It could be a number level. It could be a knowledge level, but you have to have measurables. Achievable. They have to be realistic. If you're a company and you're looking to take your business from $1 million a year to $100 million a year, that might not be achievable in 6 months or 12 months. Probably not at all. You have to have it where, okay, well, the first stage is we need to hit 5 million or 10 million. Now, if you're an end user, you have to have achievable goals. So achievable might be, we're working on a software solution. We want to get a 5-year contract with this developer. So achievable, let's get enough money for year one. Great, let's get enough money then for year 2, year 3, year 4, year 5. Make them achievable so that way you're experiencing success as you're going through achieving the goal. Relevant, it has to solve the problem. It has to be something that's going to solve the problem for your community, and it has to be a solvable situation in terms of hitting numbers if you're on the sales side, or on the marketing side, hitting conversations or growing a database. And then last, time bound. So you have to have timing. You maybe have a 1-year goal. If you have a 1-year goal, you want to have a 6-month goal. If you have a 6-month goal, you want to have a 3-month goal. If you have a 3-month goal, you have to have a 1-month goal. And then you have to have weekly measurables to achieve that 1, 3, 6, and 12-month goals. Planning and organization. Developing a well-structured plan and organizing your tasks and resources effectively can enhance your productivity and efficiency. So you need to plan. Fail to plan, plan to fail. So you want to make sure your plan is structured, and you want to make sure you have organization, and maybe this is where you want to have a team involved. In fact, I highly recommend you do have a team involved. If you're a business, you want to have a funding division. If you're an agency, you want to have a couple members of your agency to be part of your grant team. So you want to have organization, then you want to have a plan, and maybe one of your plan people in the plan is a researcher. Maybe one of them is a person that picks up the phone and calls these grantors. Maybe then there's another person in your plan that writes the grants if you're an agency. And if you're a business, you one that researches grants, one that connects the grants to the solution, so you can specifically know that X grant fits Y solution. You want to have it organized in that manner. And then the third thing is time management. Time management by prioritizing tasks, managing distractions, and allocating time appropriately to different activities can help you progress towards your goals. So you want to think of it this way. I always recommend to agencies the following strategy. You need to break down your pursuit of funding into digestible X amount of minutes a day. I recommend 15. If you can spend 15 minutes a day, every day, working on getting your funding division in order, finding specific grants, pursuing relationships with them, then the odds of you having a funding division that will fund projects above and beyond your budget grows exponentially. If you're a business, your funding division needs to be talking to your pipeline, your sales opportunities. Your funding division needs to be talking to the debt opportunities to see if you can breathe life into them. Your funding division needs to be talking to the marketing team about how to market grants with the solution. Time management is the key to that. And you have to have X amount of time. It could be an hour a week. That's what I would recommend if you're a business. If you could put more to it, great. But you have to set aside time, because if you don't set aside time and set aside the planning and the goal setting, none of this works out. Your psychology is the key to all this. So now what I want to do is I want to talk about grants. And the internet has data that goes up to about 2 years ago. So I'm going to share with you grants that I've seen that have been extremely valuable to our classes to focus on, to think about, to target. This is the next couple slides. I highly recommend you do screen captures or take a picture with your phone, because these are grants you're going to want to put on your list depending on the type of organization you are and depending on the type of business you are and who you sell to. The first one's the JAG grant, the Justice Assistance Grant. JAG is a formula grant. It provides funding to state, local, and tribal governments, supports a wide range of initiatives for law enforcement, court programs, prosecution, crime prevention, education, corrections, community corrections, drug treatment programs, and overall enforcement. So if you're a law enforcement agency, the formula is very basically written like number of people in your community, crime rate in your community, and they work a formula and you get X amount of this pie that's available. The pie could be anywhere from $400 to $500 million over the last decade to 2 decades. So with that in mind, you're going to get X amount of money. And then from there, it's based on, okay, we got X amount of money. What do we want to do with it? And what I explained earlier is what you can do with it. So you don't necessarily apply for the JAG money to solve these problems. You apply for the JAG money based on the formula. And then once you get the money, you could put it toward those opportunities. So it's a very competitive, and whoever can really make the strongest case within your agency usually is the one that has the best chance of getting some of that money. Now, if you're a business, you have to be aware of how that game's played. Every grant is played a little bit different. You have to know the rules of engagement. So with a grant like the JAG grant, you have to be prepared to help your end user understand how to play it at their agency. Some will know it, some won't. Don't ever assume that an agency knows how to play the grant games. They don't always do. And I've never met a public safety worker that's got into their job to be a grant expert. It's come with their job. So as a business, you need to understand how these grants work and how your solution fits into them to help them buy. Homeland Security Grant Program. This provides funding to state, local, tribal, and territorial governments to enhance preparedness. For the last decade plus, it's probably been worth $1.2 billion. And that grant is going to be cut up in a few different ways. You have UASI, and UASI is the Urban Area Security Initiative. That goes to the 25 most populated regions of the country. So if you're in Chicago or New York or LA or San Diego, you're going to get UASI funds. The rest of the country gets state Homeland Security grant funds. And so that's going to be their piece of the pie. Their pie is smaller than UASI, and it's more competitive because there's more agencies. Then if you are on the border of Mexico, Canada, the oceans, you can tap into Operation Stone Garden money, which is drug interdiction funds. Obviously, there's a lot of fentanyl coming over the border, so that's where that grant is of value. That grant's only $90 million, and that's a lot of states that are going to share that. What I'm going to be doing in a couple minutes is telling you about funding that comes from private sources that's going to dwarf anything I'm talking about on the federal side. So there's going to be some exciting things we're going to share in a minute or two. COPS grant stands for Community Oriented Policing Services. The COPS office offers various grant programs. They're typically to support community policing efforts, hiring, implementation of community policing strategies, purchasing equipment, and enhancing technology infrastructure. COPS grants are very good for plans. They're very good for programs. So if you have, and obviously for personnel. So if there's gaps in terms of that, it's a great grant to focus on if you're in law enforcement. On the flip side, you have AFG, Assistance to Firefighters grants for the fire side, provides funding to fire departments, other eligible organizations that enhance their capabilities in firefighting, EMS, and overall prevention and safety. So if you need firefighting equipment, great grant for it. It's, about, I think it's anywhere between $400 to $500 million a year. Very well-run program, very competitive. It's about, you have a 1 in 5 shot of getting your grant approved. But if you're a fire department, I think it's a must every year to apply for it. And the other thing I like about AFG is they teach you how to be successful at the grant. They have classes, and those classes are online or in person. But you want to apply for AFG yearly. The EMG grant, Emergency Management Performance Grant. A lot of public safety thinks if I'm not an emergency management agency, I can't access that grant. Truth be told, you can go after an emergency management performance grant if you're police, fire, or EMS. You might be able to go after it if you're 911. The key to an emergency management performance grant is understanding what products are a fit. And the way you figure that out is you need to be familiar with what's called the Authorized Equipment List, or AEL. It's on FEMA's website. So one of your homework assignments is to Google FEMA AEL. And you're going to want to do that for that Homeland Security Grant program we talked about in the previous slide, and the Emergency Management Performance Grant. There are 750 or so products that make up the Authorized Equipment List, or AEL. Those 750 or so products are connected to state Homeland Security grants and emergency management performance grants. So they're not based on the type of agency you are as much as if the product or project fits that grant. That's what decides if you can go for it. So don't get tunnel vision thinking, well, I'm a fire department, I can't apply for an emergency management performance grant. Yes, you can if the equipment is connected to that grant on the Authorized Equipment List. Other funding sources that you should be focusing on if you're in public safety. ARPA, American Rescue Plan Act. We are in the second half of the funding on that. There was $350 billion given, formula grant based off of population, poverty rates, and stability of the home. It is a huge opportunity. When 9/11 hit, DHS was formed and they gave out $4.2 billion, and that was considered massive. ARPA is $350 billion. Half of that money was spent by the end of last year. The other half will be spent by the end of next year, 2024. And there's extensions possible all the way into 2026. So there's $175 billion potentially available. That can go to many different things. Now I'm going to teach you one thing to keep in mind about ARPA. And what I want you to keep in mind is this. It's a relationship opportunity, meaning it's not necessarily an application and a justification paper you're going to fill out and submit and hope you get a grant. It's more of you're going to make phone calls. So if you're an end user, you're going to want to talk to your emergency management director if you have one at a city level, if not at the county level. You're also going to want to talk to your city finance department and your county finance department. They are the ones more often than not in control of the ARPA money, American Rescue Plan Act. When you talk to them, you're going to explain to them what you're looking to do in terms of your project, what the project's about, why the project is of value to the community, how the project's going to solve problems in your community, how you're going to implement the project, and then how much money you need. And then you're going to ask them, is there any American Rescue Plan Act available that we could apply to this project? They're going to tell you this, 95 times out of 100, all the money is allocated. That's okay. Allocation doesn't mean the money is spent. The reason they're going to tell you it's allocated is for a couple reasons. One, they have projects they've identified already, and they have earmarked a percentage to that project. Odds are the amount of money they've allocated is more than they need for the project. The reason they allocate more than they need is in case things change. More often than not, money is left over. I call that money gap money, G-A-P. That gap money can be used for anything. And I guarantee you, most of the people in this room, and you know what, right now in our room, we have roughly over 57 people. Your projects are probably 5 figures, maybe 6. $175 billion left. That's not a lot of money for a project. these projects that are probably allocated are in the million to plus range. So don't be concerned if they tell you it's been allocated. Allocated and spent are two different things. What I recommend you do is be persistent, not pushy, and keep in contact with them. Rapport. One of the number, I would say, if not the number one of the top things you need to have when you're going after grant money is rapport. Rapport with the people that have the money. The better they like you, the better they understand your situation, the better chance they're going to fund it. So you want to build rapport. Be persistent, be considerate, appreciate, understand their world. Don't be pushy, but you want to keep in touch with them. The next area is private money, community foundations. These are the best, in my opinion, of funding sources out there. These are organizations that are in your backyard. There are probably close to 1,500 or so community foundations in the country. These foundations raise money within communities. Some of them are one county. Some of them are 2 to 5 counties. Some of them are a cluster of counties. It really depends on the population in the region. What they do is they raise money from businesses and individuals that live in that community, and they take the money and they reinvest it and they grow the fund. And then what they do is when they grow the fund, they build up assets. And the assets can be easily in the tens to hundreds to billions of dollars. So like an example, San Diego County has a community foundation. It serves the county of San Diego and all the cities in San Diego County plus San Diego City. They have close to $900 million in their fund. Because they're a community foundation, the IRS requires them to give away 5% of their assets yearly. So as an example, in San Diego, that county, there's about $45 million they have to give away every year. So let's put this in perspective. AFG last year was $455 million. That's for the entire United States of America. San Diego County Community Foundation has $45 million for that one county. See why I get excited about community foundations? In fact, if you add up all the community foundations nationwide, they're worth probably over $50 billion with a B. They have to give away 5% of those assets. That's $2.5 billion. Let that sink in. 2.5 billion. That's twice as big as DHS. Here's the other reason to be excited about community foundation money. Very few agencies pursue it. They don't even think about it. Your market, the public safety market's been conditioned to think Fed money or state money. I love private money. Private money is quick. Private money is easy. Private money like community foundations could happen in a matter of weeks. The average for a private grant, which we're going to talk about more of those in the next 4 points here. The average turnaround time of a private grant is 90 to 180 days. Federal grants, the average turnaround time is 12 to 24 months. The average time for a state grant to turn around is 6 to 12 months. So 90 to 180 days. Think about that. If you're thinking about that, that's huge. And so with that being said, you get your money quicker. Here's the other beauty. It's 1/10 of the work. It's 1/10 of the application and justification paper you're going to have to fill out for an AFG or a state Homeland Security grant or a UASI grant. And 3, they're in your backyard. They want to solve the problems in their backyard. They want to create environments that improve, develop, and enhance the community. Their relationship, they are an organization, if you can partner with, will be someone that can support you year after year after year. They have grants set up, and they usually have anywhere from 5 to 10. The large ones have up to 50 different grant funding streams You might fit in one of them. If you don't, here's the good news. They'll go raise money for you. They'll go to all their donors and raise money for a project if they believe in it. Community foundations are the best. If you want to know where your community foundation is, all you got to do is Google your county community foundation. So example, I'm in Kane County, Illinois. I live in a town called St. Charles. Google Kane County, Illinois Community Foundation. The closest foundation that I'm in would show up. And there's a page for contacts, and then you start making calls and build relationships with them. Manufacturing companies. So if you have manufacturing in your community, they will fund projects in their backyard as well. Their customers are in that community. Their workers probably live in the community. So they want to fund projects where they have a location. They also want the write-off. Let's be honest. They want to offset the tax, to get into a different tax bracket. They want to offset the revenue. They also want to create goodwill in the community. So they will fund public safety projects. They're also a soft target based on the materials they have on site. So if you have a manufacturer in your community, you want to start building relationships with them. Public and private charities. The most well-known charity is the Gary Sinise Foundation. Lieutenant Dan from Forrest Gump. He donates money to public safety agencies yearly. On average, 5 figures, but I've seen him go in the mid 6-figure range. So you want to build relationships with them as well. And you can go back to them every year, or worst case, every other year, depending on their requirements. Public safety foundations. If you do not have a public safety foundation, I highly recommend you work on finding citizens to set up a 501c3 foundation, because they can go to those manufacturers and those charities and the community foundation on your behalf, raise money on your behalf, and buy the solution and donate the solution to you to speed up the purchasing process. They also can raise money and just cut you a check. But if you do have a foundation, build relationships with them, build rapport specifically for the part of your agency. Don't rely on the whole agency to have the relationship with the foundation. Reach out to them. So if you're in operations or patrol or special ops or training, build relationships with your public safety foundation. Service companies. So your service companies, electric company, gas company, water company, waste management, railroads, food service, distribution companies, companies that do business in your community want to help the community just like those manufacturers do. Their customers are in there. Their workers are in that community. They want the write-off. They want to promote goodwill. They might have things that create soft target possibilities. Build relationships with your people in your backyard. These businesses are there to help you out. I've worked on projects where we had 80% of the funding from building that relationship. So, we were working on selling lighting to an agency, and it was $100,000 project. 80% of the money came from small businesses in the community. They didn't even have to go for a grant. They got 80% of the money right out of the box. Build relationships. Grants are about solving problems in your backyard. So let's talk about grant writing mindset. So what does that mean, grant writing mindset? It means the following: clarity of purpose. Clearly define your goals, objectives, and purpose of the project. So what do you want? Why do you want it? How is it going to add value to your community? How are you going to implement it? And what's the cost? Every grant has those 5 components. You must articulate why it's important and how it's going to address or solve a specific need or problem within the community. Needs to be clear, needs to be compelling, and it needs to enhance the application. It needs to tell the story that led you to why you are applying for this money. Persuasive communication. You need to be persuasive, verbally and written. Your communication skills need to persuade and convey the merits of the project. You need to craft a persuasive narrative that highlights the importance of the project, the impact it's going to make on the community, and the value or benefits it's going to bring. So you need to be persuasive. You need to, one of the things I recommend nowadays, talk about what you want, talk about why you want it, and then transcribe what you talk about. Sometimes people do a better job of speaking than writing. Maybe you're a writer, then write first, and really take time each day crafting that persuasive discussion of what you want and why you want it. Research and data analysis. So you're going to want to do research. You got to do your homework that's going to support the proposal. You need data, stats, evidence. This takes what you want and blows up the significance or importance of why you want it. You need to demonstrate the need of the project and the potential effectiveness. How is it going to save time or save money or reduce liability or save lives? Well-informed and evidence-based approach is going to increase your capability. It's going to enhance the chances of getting this funding. And that's really what this is about. Your justification paper is to increase the odds of getting that yes. Engagement, your stakeholders' engagement. Engage with these grant holders that are going to be impacted. Engage with the community that's going to be impacted, that has an interest in this project. Again, this is why I like private money. They're impacted by giving you the money. The federal government is to a point, but they're this big entity in DC. These private funding sources are in your backyard. You might drive by them every day and not even know you're driving by them. They have a skin in the game, if you will. Collaborate with these community members, these organizations, and potential funders to build these relationships, gain the support, get endorsements. You need to demonstrate a broad community involvement. If you show how the community is going to have value from the project, that's going to move the needle. Yes, saving time on callouts or saving money on callouts or reducing liability and saving lives, all important, but just as important, how is a community even going to be able to be involved and benefit from it? To create a community that's stable, that's growing, that's excited, that's safe. That is what's going to strengthen that application. Grant writing skills, develop strong writing skills. The best way to do it, write daily. If you can write 10 to 15 minutes a day, you will get outstanding at writing. Just like anytime when you started your job day one to today, I'm sure you're a lot better at what you do than you were years ago. And the reason you're better at it is because you've worked at it. Same thing with writing. You might feel you're a lousy writer. I don't know. You only get better by practice. Repetition is the mother of skill. So develop skills, conveying your details, your goals, your expected outcomes. Understand the requirements, become a really good reader of those applications and justifications and guidances, and tailor your proposal accordingly. Articulate the project's budget, how much it's going to cost, where the shortfalls are in your budget to pay for the project, how you're going to implement it, how you're going to evaluate the effectiveness of it, and how it's going to be sustainable year 2, 3, 4, 5, and beyond. Emotional intelligence. Understand and navigate the emotions and motivations of individuals involved in the grant application process. You need to have empathy. You need to listen. You need to build rapport with the reviewers. That's one of the reasons why I want you to talk to these grantors. I don't want you just to blindly send an application or a justification in. I want you to build relationships with them. And the ability to build rapport with these reviewers and decision makers is going to change the game. Emotional intelligence is going to help you effectively communicate what you want, why you want it, how you're going to implement it. Address concerns before they become concerns. and building relationships, not for today, but long-term with these grantors. Resilience and persistence. You're going to get told a no a lot. You probably get more no's than yes. That's okay. The yeses are what is going to make it happen. The grant application process is challenging. It's competitive. It's not easy. It wasn't designed to be easy. However, if you're resilient with your mindset and you're good with the no's, and you know that no will lead to a yes in the next round or the round after that, and learn from the setbacks, ask, what could I do better? What can I do different? How can I get better at this? What do I need to do to become better at this? Use the feedback from these previous experiences and applications and conversations with grantors to improve your future proposals. You're going to get better. You'll get better at this. I know you didn't sign up for this when you took your job. However, this is what's going to get you home safer to your family and loved ones by having all the things you need to solve the problems. Resilience and persistence is going to ensure you remain committed to your goals. So let's decide to act today. Let's not leave here without taking action. So the first thing I want you to think about is make a decision. Make a decision to decide to act, to get better at this game. And if you feel that this has compelled you, that makes you want to get better at the grant game, put a yes in the comments. Put a yes in the chat if you're leaving here today saying, you know what? I'm going to get better at this stuff. I need to get better at this stuff. I want to get home safe to my family and loved ones. Secondly, know your outcome. Understand what you want to do. What is your goal? I like to call it outcomes. Goals are one thing, but an outcome is going to happen. So know your outcome and then decide. Know your why. Why is that outcome important? The drives in the why. Your why is 80% of what's going to get things done. The outcome is 20%. The drive is in the why. Why do you want it? I want to, it could be as simple as I want to be able to do my job better. Your outcome would be I want to be able to serve the community better. Your outcome could be I want to see my kids at the end of my shift. Your outcome could be I want to spend the rest of my life with my wife after I'm done doing 25, 30, or 35 years. Your outcome could be I want to move and live off of a beach and enjoy my golden years, if you will. The drive's in the why. If your why is big enough, you'll figure out the outcome. Take massive action. Massive action, not action, massive. So what does massive action look like? Start a funding division or start a funding team. Master the grant funding game. If you're a business, build a team that is going to be in charge of understanding where the money is for what you sell. If you're an agency, build a team that can build relationships with grantors in your backyard and have targets of federal and state. So when they open, you're ready to take action on them. Build out or invest in high quality grant info, specific to your city, county, region, or state, specific for the equipment, software, and training. And I'm going to show you something we built that's going to launch in September that I think you're going to like. Hire a consultant, a strategist, or a coach who understands the public safety grant funding process. My company is consistently hired by organizations to be their strategist, their coach, or their consultant, or their funding division to help end users get money. So if you're a business on this call and you're like, you know what, I want to build one of these teams, or I want to find out more about what Michael's team can do, let us know. You'll have all my contact info at the end of this. Notice the results you're getting. You can't manage what you don't measure. You have to notice what results are happening based on your effort. And once you've measured those results, if you need to change your approach, do so. So if your results are, I need to do X, but right now your current results are getting you Y, and Y is not close enough to X, assess your progress. You might need to work on strategies or beliefs. That's okay. A flight, when it leaves an airport, is off the mark 98% of the time. they keep moving it back on target. They don't tell you that. They don't announce on the intercom, oh, by the way, we're off target again. We'll get there when we get there. No, the pilots are always moving the planes back on target. So it's not uncommon that you might not be on target, but it might mean you need to change your approach. Might mean you have to do new strategies. It might mean you need to change your belief system. You might hit a plateau. And if you hit a plateau, that's okay. That just means you're not hitting the target. You're not where you want. That's usually the best time to ask for help. Maybe it's us. Maybe it's somebody else. Find somebody you have synergy with. That's the key. If you have synergy with them, that's what you want. So before I open up to questions, if you want to talk to me, if you want to email me, if you want to follow us on social media, we'd love for you to do it. Your family, as far as I'm concerned, which means is you have a question, you just let me know. If I can answer it, I will. If I can help give you advice, I'm going to. I'll direct you to where you need to go. So feel free to take an image of this page as well. With that in mind, I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to open this up to questions, and I'll take a look and see what questions you all have so far and answer them and, go from there. And if you don't have questions, no worries. If you have a few minutes, I want to show you, we're developing a new website called GovFunds that I think is going to add a lot of value to this marketplace that I'd love to show you. So I'm just going to go through here and see if there's any questions. Tim, yes, we record it. It's going to be available on YouTube. Usually need about 4 to 5 business days. People can hear me. That's fantastic. I'm usually pretty loud. Yep. So, and we will have everything loaded on YouTube. Looks like people introduce themselves. I'm happy, use the chat. People need to know who's in the room because you don't always know. That's awesome. But with that in mind, I'm going to take, do you know of any National Foundation grants for EMS? Lauren, my answer to you is, are you an end user or are you a business? That's number one. And number two, if you're an end user, what's your city, county, and state you're in? Feel free to put that in the chat and or talk.
I'm with the Owasso Fire Department, so we're all hazards, fire, and ALS ambulance. We're having a hard time funding the ambulance side. We serve about 40,000 people, and we're not considered a rural community, which for Oklahoma, that takes a lot of grants out of the option for us because we're not considered rural.
Okay.
And so I didn't know there was any national grants that would be more willing to support us.
We're going to take a look. I'm just sharing my screen since someone asked me to share this screen so they can get a capture of it. I'm going to stop sharing in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up a Google page, share my screen again. All right. So what county are you in?
We are in 3 counties, our ambulance services. It's Tulsa County, Rogers County, and Washington County.
Rogers, R-O-G-E-R-S or R-O-D-G-E-R-S?
That's correct, R-O-G-E-R-S.
And you said, what was the other county?
Washington County.
And what state is that?
Oklahoma.
Okay. So the Tulsa Community Foundation would be the place I would go. And I'm going to put this in the chat. And the reason I would go there is Tulsa Community Foundation is about solving problems in their backyard. They have a collection over 1,500 funds. So what you would do is you would go to staff profiles. All right, a lot of people, but not a lot of So let's go. So we got Phil, we got Jeff, we got Mike, assisting donors in the nonprofit sector, creating charitable funds and programs. Okay, so I'd probably start with Mike Dotson. And I would reach out to Mike and I would explain to him who you are, what you're looking to do, why you're looking to do it. They might have a funding stream already built up for you. You see, they have emergency disaster relief. They have, so right off the bat, if I'm you, I would probably figure, okay, how do I connect EMS capabilities with emergency disaster relief? Because emergency disaster is typically about preparedness, response, recovery, or relief. If you can connect the dots on how your project's going to provide relief for the community, you have a fit. So you're going to want to start thinking that way, but I would have a dialogue with them and I would start building a long-term relationship where you can either go to them every year, every other year. I would look and see if there's a revenue stream already established that you can fit into, or see if they maybe would be willing to start a fund for you. Does that help?
Yes, that's actually very helpful. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Awesome. All right, Star, I've looked into some grants and they want exact amounts of what it would cost for a particular thing. What do I do about not being able to have the answer? I would get with your provider of whatever it is, and I would ask them for a formal proposal. And I would ask for it itemized if you had to. If you have to, whatever that grantor needs to see from you to say, okay, let's talk, or here, apply. You need to get your business, you need to get the business on board to do that. So that's something you can leverage them. So you want to make sure that you have what you need from that supplier. May it be the distributor, the manufacturer, the software developer, the service company. And they can get you a formal quote, and that's the dollar, that's your target. So if you're playing darts, that's your bullseye. That's what you're throwing at, is that dollar amount. Does that help? All right. If we have no other questions, I want to take and show you, it's a new position or department. I have no idea. It's a staffing. Is it here? You know, Star, feel free to unmute so we can talk. We could be a little less formal. Or I can help unmute you if you're running into issues muting. Let's see here. Oops. My computer doesn't have a mic. All right. So then I'll do my best answer. So if it's a position, you need to know what is the salary of it, or you need to have a salary range. Whatever the grantor is asking for you typically means that grantors needs information. So whoever is the genesis of what you're looking to do, they have to have an idea of the dollar amount. So if it's a position, whoever's in charge of hiring needs to have a dollar amount. If it's equipment, you need to get a quote from a supplier. If it's software, you need to get a quote from the software, plus integration and all those other things. So you have to make sure you have a target, and that's the dollar amount. Ashley, say you have multiple quotes, bids for equipment, and you haven't chosen a vendor. Do you include all the quotes in the grant proposal? What I would do is I would determine who is the one that you feel is going to add the most value to your organization. Sometimes it's price. Sometimes it's uniqueness. So if they have something that makes them unique or a sole source or what have you, then you want to leverage that. But you're going to need to pick a dance partner. If you want to be safe, pick the one that's the most expensive. You could do that. And last but not least, if somebody felt this class was of value, write a referral, a recommendation that we could post and send to agencies to get more people here. Our outcome is to solve the funding problem. And the best way I've learned to solve it is add value to you, you tell other people about it, and then they come to the event too. Where would you like the recommendations posted? Email them to me. Please email them to me, and we will use them when we do our marketing. Which specific link would you like to see? Quantum, feel free to unmute if you like to direct me to a specific page.
Hi there, Michael. Can you hear me?
Perfectly.
Wonderful. Hey, sir. Good to see you again. Thank you for this webinar. Really appreciate it. You had a slide up earlier with a bunch of links, and I was trying to clear off the conversation board before I could screenshot that.
You mean this page?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you very much.
No, my pleasure. My pleasure. Thanks for coming. Appreciate you being here. Luis, my pleasure to provide the training. It's a service that I've been doing now. It'll be 3 years next month, and I'm honored to serve y'all. I appreciate what everyone in this room does. Lauren, my pleasure. Thank you for coming. Yeah, if anyone has any other questions, feel free to unmute. I will stay in this room for another 4 minutes. My pleasure. My pleasure.
Hey, Michael, this is Tim Harden.
Hey, Tim.
Hey, I got a question for you. Along with the grant writing, do you assist at all with the writing of the RFP or the RFQ to be able to get that initial grant or initial funding idea or amount for the customer?
We can coach, absolutely. We can coach, advise. We can't put pen to paper on their behalf because typically when we engage at that level, the business hires us. And when the business hires us, if we put pen to paper on the end user's behalf, it's collusion. So what we could do is review what they write. We open up a comment box, highlight areas that we feel we can help guide them to optimize what they put together, and pass it back and forth until we feel it's strong enough for them to submit. Then we'll say, you know what, if we were you, we'd submit it, and then they do so.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
No, my pleasure. Thanks, Barbara. I appreciate you being here. I'm always humbled when people come back, and I'm always humbled when I'm at shows and I meet people that have been to this class. It's an honor to and a privilege, I feel, to be able to share 20 years of grant knowledge. So I'll keep the room open for 3 more minutes if anyone else has any other questions. Feel free to unmute.
Hey, Michael, Danny here.
Hey, Danny.
I'm with a company called Acton Black. We do night vision. I've been trying to get funding for all these different police departments. They can never find the funding or have the source to be able to find someone who does. So I guess what avenue can I go through to help them? Or can I get the funding myself and provide them with the product?
There's a couple different ways. Number one, you'd have to research available funding sources based on their location, based on the type of agency they're at, and literally go through Google and choose the ones that make the most sense. Another way, if you have budget, is our company provides grant assistance to vendors, customers. And what we do is we learn about your solutions as if we were selling them, because the benefits of what you offer is what will solve problems that grant funders have set aside money to solve. And so, we build out custom grant lists. So our database of 2,500 grants, we reduced down based on what your features, advantages, and benefits are of your solutions. And then when you onboard customers to us and we help them and hold their hand and guide them through the grant process. We did this years ago for EOTech on their, not just their holographic sites, but their thermal imaging and night vision solutions. And by year 3, we generated an additional $1 million in revenue for them.
All right. All right. I'll be in contact with you.
Okay. Yeah. I'd love to take a deeper dive. Absolutely.
Definitely. All right. I appreciate it. Thank you.
No, my pleasure. All right, folks, with that in mind, I'm going to be closing up the room. Again, appreciate your time and attendance. Be safe out there. And thank you very much for taking the time. I don't take it lightly when people set aside an hour of their time for this class, and keep coming back. We do new information every month. Great. Take care. Have a great weekend. Stay safe.